Hi everyone, welcome to my kitchen. Today we are going to make some soap. I'm going to take you through my process that I use, and today that's going to be the hot process soap. You can make soap a number of different ways. There's a cold process that has been around for many years. Probably the process that most people use. That's the one that I started out with about 12 years ago now. And I've just recently, in the last couple of years, adopted the hot process soap making, and I find I like it a whole lot more. It's easier to work with right off the get-go. It cures, it's ready right away as soon as you're done making your batch. As soon as it hardens enough that you can cut it into bars, you can essentially use it. So, you could use it the next day, although it does benefit from sitting for a few days just to harden up somewhat. But cold process soap, you have to let that soap cure so that the lye component has stabilized, and that can take anywhere from 4, 5, 6 weeks. So I have behind me my ingredients laid out that I'm gonna take you guys through briefly. And I've also got some old soaps, not old, but soaps that I've previously made. I'll show you those. And then we'll get ready with the whole process. When you're making a hot process soap, you're actually cooking it. And for doing that, I will be using my Instant Pot. Now, this isn't the Instant Pot that I use for cooking food for my friends and family. This is an extra Instant Pot that was gifted to me. And I'm going to move you across over to this counter and we'll go through some things and then we'll get started. So my recipe is a fairly basic recipe. You can do your own research and come up with umpteen different recipes online. The first thing that I want to recommend is just a simple notebook where you write down what recipe you have used and what you've added for scents, what you've added for colorants, different recipes that you might have experimented with. Always keep notes, especially if you're going to sell your soap. If you're selling any cosmetics, it is essential that you keep track of the recipes that and the ingredients that you've used. It's actually required by the cosmetic industry in Canada. So aside from that though, even if you're just making it just for friends and family, people will come back to you and they'll say, oh, we just love the soap that you made, that we bought from you at the farmer's market in August. Can we get more of that? And you're not going to remember what you made. And so you just go back through and you just look it up and then see if you can replicate that. Aside from the olive oil, coconut oil, and lye solution, which is pretty much part of every soap. When I mentioned things like adding color and oils, there's a lot of different things that you can use to color your soap. You can use things like cocoa powder, you can use paprika, you can use other ground herbs. I have ground up parsley before and added that for a muted green color. You can use turmeric. I have ground up coffee beans before, very fine. That adds a couple of things. That will actually add a scent to your soap. You will get that coffee scent. Sometimes I've used a chocolate coffee bean, adds a really deep, rich, beautiful chocolate coffee scent to your soap, but it's also exfoliating. So you just want to be aware of that. Also, some herbs that you can use, they can also be exfoliating, and in some cases they can be an irritant. So you want to make people aware of what's in your soap for those things. Some people already will know what they have sensitivities to. Some people don't, but they might come back to you and say, you know, that soap that I used, it really bothered my skin. And you can, you know, narrow it down to, well, maybe it was the paprika that was in there, maybe it was the turmeric that was in there. I know some people are sensitive to different essential oils. That's another thing. Actually, for a second, let's talk about essential oils. So pretty much every recipe you're going to come across for making soap or making shampoo bars, they are going to list optional essential oils. We have become a culture that is obsessed with fragrance. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of things that we are using in products to scent them are extremely harmful. They're harmful to our endocrine system. They are upsetting our hormones. Some of them are just made with garbage products that you don't want anywhere near your skin. That's one thing. Essential oils also range in quality. There are high quality, good, organic essential oils, and I think it runs all the way down the gamut to there are trash essential oils. How do you know? How does anybody know? I mean, aside from buying 100% organic, therapeutic grade essential oils, which cost an arm and a leg in some cases, you know, we just don't know. I've used essential oils ever since I started making soap. Some cost me a lot of money, some not so much. I've never really had anybody come back to me and question my essential oils as to being irritants. Not that I can recall. And none have ever really bothered anybody in my household. But what I'm finding myself personally, what I've found the last year or so, is that I'm trying more and more to get away from essential oils. Now, like I said, we have become a culture that is obsessed with fragrance. And, you know, if you are at a farmer's market and, you know, you've got your product on a table, guaranteed people come along. That's the first thing they do when they pick up a bar of soap. I'm guilty of it. What's it smell like? Oh, that's lovely. You know, what is that? It doesn't really appeal to me. I'm trying to get away from that. Just recently, I started making some shampoo bars. And this is actually the first batch that I made. It's a lard-based shampoo bar. It's lard that I rendered myself from a pasture-raised pig. Good quality lard, good quality ingredients in here. But it's the first time I'd ever made this, and I was going to be using it on myself. And I thought, well, I'm not going to put a bunch of essential oils in there that are expensive and waste them if I really don't like this shampoo bar. Well, I've been using this now for a number of weeks, and I love it. I love the effect it has on my hair. I just washed my hair this morning with this. I lather it with this lightly. You don't use a lot, and you rinse it out, and that's it. There is nothing else in my hair. You can use an apple cider vinegar rinse, and sometimes I do that. But after your hair goes through the detox stage of getting away from store-bought shampoos and conditioners, it will take 2 or 3 weeks for the buildup of that to come out of your hair. And during that time, your hair is kind of gunky and it's kind of funky and it's not very pleasant. But if you stick with it, after a couple of weeks, it goes away and everything is balanced. And yeah, so far I'm really liking this. And if you do want some fragrance, you can put fragrance on after you get out of the shower. Okay, so I guess I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there with essential oils and with shampoo bars and the like. But anyways, that's where I stand with that. Other than the ingredients, today we're going to be using these molds. And this is just a silicone mold inside a wooden box, and they work great. After 12 years of making soap, I finally treated myself to some proper molds, but you don't need to. You can use things like empty milk cartons, cream cartons. I've used these for 12 years. Another thing that works really well is empty broth containers. You get a different shape of soap, more probably like the soap, traditional soap that you find like in the drugstore or the grocery store. But there's any number of things. So you would use these as a mold, and after your soap hardens, you just cut this away and then it's trash. But so those are some molds. Got my ingredients. Today also, what I'm using for a colorant is a mica powder. Now this is a mica powder that is not actually intended for the type of soap recipe that I'm using. This is more for a melt and pour soap, which is a whole different ball of wax that I don't even make. I just happen to have these on hand, and so I've just been using them up. And it's kind of always a little bit of a surprise, because once the soap goes through the process of the lye and the oils combining and it gets cooked, you add this in and you're never really sure what color you're going to get. It can be close to this color that's in the bag, or it can be completely different. So it's a surprise. But anyways, this one is called Aquamarine. And I don't know if you can really see, but it's kind of this really pretty blue color. So that's what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be using that, and I am going to use some essential oils just so that you can see the process. And I'm going to go way back old school to the very first batch of soap I ever made, and it was basil and lime. So we're going to use those. So I'm going to get my ingredients measured out and in the Instant Pot, and I'll kind of show you how I do that, and we'll carry on. When you're making your soap and you are measuring out your ingredients, everything has to be by weight. So even though we're dealing with things like water and oil, it's going to be by weight. So the first thing I'm going to measure out is 15.5 ounces of distilled water. So I've got my scale and I zeroed it after I put my measuring cup on. And so I'm coming up to 15.5 ounces. And again, this is distilled water. Okay, that's 15.5 ounces. I will set that aside. Okay, so aside from the water, then I measured out 6.1 ounces of lye crystals. Now, when you're dealing with lye, ideally you want to be wearing gloves, you want to be wearing glasses or goggles, and you would preferably mix this into your water outside. There's a chemical reaction that takes place, and this water will get very, very hot. And there's also some fumes and whatnot that aren't so pleasant. So I'm going to do this outside. I'm not going to take you along with that for that right now, just because it's like still minus 4,000 outside. So I'm going to take that out and do that quickly, and then I'll be right back. So here's the lye and the lye crystals in the water mixed together. It's very hot. Actually reading just shy of 175 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's about just shy of 80 degrees Celsius. So we're going to set this aside, and this is going to cool. And in the pot of my Instant Pot, I weighed out 1,000 grams of olive oil and 360 grams of coconut oil. And it wouldn't be it wouldn't be a day with coconut oil without my trusty sidekick here to lick the spoon. Hey, isn't that good for you? Anytime I get that out, she just seems to know. So what we're doing right now, I can show you. So I've got the Instant Pot just on the saute mode, and I'm going to melt the coconut oil and bring both the oils melted together up to about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. And around the same time that that reaches temperature, then my lye and water mixture should have come down in temperature enough. You want them to be roughly around that 110 to 120 degree mark. And then you combine the two of them, stir them together, and you let the Instant Pot do the cooking. So we'll come back when the oils are melted and I'll show you that. So while I'm waiting for the oils to come down to proper temperature, I went ahead and started measuring out my essential oils. So I just wanted to show you, this is roughly, so this is a shot glass. So this is roughly 30 grams of essential oil, which is what they recommend for a batch that size. Okay, now comes the fun part. So the oils are roughly in that 120 range. The lye water has come down to roughly that 120 range. So now I'm just going to pour the lye water mixture and set that in my sink. Then I'm going to take a stick blender and plug this in. And we're going to gently pulse this, and we're going to mix it around until it comes up to something called trace. And I will show you what that looks like when we get there. It is, it's kind of like a custardy pudding consistency. So I'm going to continue doing this. It should only take a few minutes, and then we'll come back and you can see what it looks like. This is what it looks like when it's getting up to trace. It gets thicker and you can trace lines across the surface of it. So at this point now, we're just going to add that aquamarine mica powder, and we're going to give that a mix. This can be kind of messy stuff. Oh, a pretty color. Okay. I'm gonna mix that in as quick as I can. And after things cook and after it sets up, I'm curious to see what color we'll have here. It's a real pretty blue color, but I think it's probably going to end up more like a slate gray. Mystery soap. Nothing wrong with the element of surprise. So off camera, that when I was using this to bring it up to trace, it took roughly about 8 minutes, just so you have an idea. And the Instant Pot now, I should have told you earlier, I have it on slow cooker mode. Okay, I think that is mixed enough. So now we're just gonna let this sit. I'm gonna put a lid on it. And I'm gonna come back to it every few minutes and I'm gonna give it a stir. And it will really start to build in this pot. And we'll come back and have a look. Okay, now at this point, isn't that cool? You take the lid off. If there's any condensation on the lid of your, or on the underside of your lid, you want to make sure that you don't get any of that in your soap. So I just set that aside on a towel. When you see it bubbling up like that, you just come in and you just give it a stir. Mix that all in. Stir it down. Put the lid back on and let it cook again. Now this is going to cook like this for about 45 minutes until it is nice and opaque. It'll have like a gel look to it almost. And you just come back to it every few minutes when it starts to build like that and you stir it down. Let it sit, come back, stir it down. Repeat the process, like I said, about 45 minutes. I will keep track of the time so that I can let you know for sure at the end. Looks like a science experiment. I guess it is a science experiment of sorts. Kind of see how it's changing consistency, getting thicker, more gel-like. It's been about 25 minutes. It's not quite ready, but it's getting close. Okay, it has been just over 35 minutes. And I think this is good. This is the consistency that I'm looking for. This is the opaqueness that I'm looking for. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn off the Instant Pot, and now I'm gonna add those essential oils that we measured out. Gonna pour that in. And we're just gonna stir this. The reason you add your essential oils at the end is if you add them at the beginning and you're just applying that much heat to them, it's hard on the essential oils and they'll fade, they'll disappear. But right now, this smells very good. Kind of digging the color. It's kind of a greeny kind of slate. So just stir those, make sure they're really well incorporated. And then we're going to pour into some molds. So now I'm just going to fill my soap mold. And at this point in the process, because the product has been cooked down, it is no longer, it's no longer caustic. So you can touch this with your hands and it's not going to cause you any skin irritation at all. So I just want to tap it out. I'm just going to take it out of that pan. Just kind of want to drop it in there. Make sure that you don't have any gaps in the bottom. So just keep tapping and keep filling. I'm really liking these soap molds, but what I'm finding is that the recipe that I am using does not quite fill 2 of these soap molds, but it's kind of too much for 1. So we'll fill this, and it doesn't matter if it's lumpy and bumpy on top. Adds a little bit of character. And you can even trim that off afterwards if you don't like it. Most people like a little bit of character in the final product though. So I'm gonna set that aside. And then, because I still have this much left, I'm just gonna use my old standby, a cream carton. And I'm going to fill that up, and that will work just fine. It's nice. It's easy to work with because it's not sticky. It slides right down in there. This is why I like the hot process soap. I can get this on my hands. If I was doing a cold process recipe where it hadn't cured, you have to work quickly, and if you do get it on your hands, you kind of want to wash your hands right away because it does cause skin irritation. It can make your skin itchy. I suppose in some cases, if you've got really sensitive skin, it could even cause burns. So that's why I've been choosing this process. Plus, I like that I don't have to wait 6 weeks. See that? Just pat that down. And another thing that I can do is I scrape the pot and get everything out of there. And then I can get all these little bits off my spatula. Just like that. I can take and I can just roll this into a little soap ball. These are handy for kids. They are good to just have by the kitchen sink. But you're literally using up all your little bits. And in the matter of a day, that will harden up nicely. These molds I will likely leave for a couple of days. And then I will unmold them. And then I'll use my cutters to cut them into bars. So this is usually what the final product looks like. Different colors, of course. I seem to have a tendency to go for the greens. I'm a green lover. Anyways, Then all that's left to do is a little bit of cleanup. Okay, so if you've made it with me this far, thank you very much. That is a single batch of hot processed soap using some colorant and using some essential oils. And in a couple of days, I will cut into it and I should get 15, 16 bars maybe. Let me know what you think. But anyways, thanks very much for watching and I hope to see you soon. Hi, Ella. Love you.